School is supposed to be a safe place for absolutely everyone. But the harsh reality is that for far too many students, it is exactly the place where they are confronted with racism for the very first time. And the tricky thing is, racism in schools is not always loud, not always an obvious attack. Sometimes it is just a very quiet remark, maybe from a teacher. But that one sentence can cause the greatest damage, a comment that sets the course for an entire future. Okay, and let's just take a moment to let that sink in. This quote is not a made-up example. It comes directly from everyday school life, and it shows in such a frighteningly clear way how a single remark, a dismissive expectation, can set the course for an entire life. Here, the child's potential is not being seen, rather, their future is essentially being blocked from the start. But to truly understand this problem, it is not enough to only look at isolated, extreme incidents like this. We have to understand the whole thing as a system, and research shows this very clearly. There are 3 levels that interlock like gears. These 3 forms, individual, institutional, and structural, work together both inside and outside of school. Let's take a closer look at what lies behind them. Individual racism is the form we recognize most easily. It is the most visible. These are personal attacks, the insults on the schoolyard. These are the moments that hurt directly and leave really deep scars. And now it becomes more complex, because this level is much more subtle. This is no longer the open attack, institutional racism. It is embedded, so to speak, in the walls of the school, in the everyday routines. Think about the selection of textbooks or the recommendations for secondary schools. This is often not about bad intentions from a single person. It is about rules and habits that have developed over years and that ultimately produce inequality in a systematic way. And this third form actually begins outside the school walls, but it directly determines the opportunities children have within the school. You can think of it as the foundation on which the other 2 levels are built. Where someone lives determines how well a school is equipped, and that is structural racism. Now let's take a look at what happens when this process is set in motion, how a single discriminatory act triggers an entire chain of negative consequences. Not just for those affected, but ultimately for all of us. This is a truly fatal chain reaction. A single negative experience at school can spread outward and influence an entire life path, from mental health to education to later job opportunities. A domino effect. This number is really striking, 47%. Just imagine that. Almost half of the people who have experienced racism say that they still feel emotionally burdened by the memories of it. It is a weight they carry with them permanently. And we are not just talking about feeling sad for a moment. These are clinically relevant diagnoses. Every single one of them can directly and massively impair a child's ability to learn and develop well. That, of course, makes the educational path infinitely more difficult. And this is where the circle closes. What begins as individual psychological and educational harm ultimately becomes a massive societal problem. We lose talent, we create economic disadvantages, and we place a burden on our social systems. But, and this is the good news, once we understand the problem and its effects, we can also focus on proven solutions. We can actively counteract it. Well, and this question is directed at all of us. It invites us to think together about what the way forward could look like. Because there are very concrete approaches that we can implement. This is not just a list of nice ideas. These are truly concrete, action-oriented steps that schools, teachers, and the entire community can take. Every single one of these points can help create a fairer environment, an environment in which all children can truly develop their full potential. And this final question, I think, perfectly captures the core problem. It encourages reflection. Because in the end, it is not just about individual fates, as serious as they are. It is about the collective price that we all pay for racism in our schools. Every single day. Today, a work by Böhmer and Steffgen from 2022 was discussed. Do you have questions or topic suggestions? Feel free to write to me at YouTube at EmpowerMigra.com. EmpowerMigra, understanding begins with listening.